Hello, I'm Leila Nasser, here with Miss Ingram, author of The Hands of War, a story about her experience as a Holocaust survivor. It is so nice to see you. Thank you for coming.
Nice seeing you.
About a year ago, your first book, The Hands of War, was published. So, what made you decide to publish this book so many years after the Holocaust?
All of my life there have been wars, and wars have become increasingly more lethal and unthinkable, and I thought that I had the unique perspective of what it is like to be a child of war and a child of genocide. So I had a unique voice that I felt needed to be heard, because I believe that we need to figure out ways of not making wars. I think we need to figure out means by which we can arrive at more peaceful, if not loving, deterrent, at least a lack of war. Because I believe that war just have two objectives: killing and profits. And I also, because my family was murdered, and in ovens or in mass graves, without any memorial, without any place where you can say this is where he or she was buried. I felt I wanted it to be a memorial to my parents and to all people who died in wars.
And when did you start writing this book?
I started writing this as a teenager. I was about 18 when I began to write it, and I had finished a manuscript around 18, 19, but lost it on the subway in New York. So then I started writing it more to combat the demons. You know, I think we now know it as post-traumatic stress disorder. But it was not something that I knew was then, but I thought that if I could write down some of these things, the fear that I experienced every time I heard a siren or fire, or, you know, just things were always frightening. I had horrible nightmares, and I decided that I would write these things down, never intending it to be a book. It was, you know, my therapy, so to speak, and so that was the initial call.
And what sort of relationship did you have with your mother?
It was amazing. She was an amazing person. Our relationship fell apart. In part, it was my insistence that she talked to me about our mutual experience, and her insistence on not doing so. You know, we became at loggerheads. It was just one of the unfortunate byproducts of war. I think that she suffered, and I think that what she suffered was probably also what is now known as survivor's guilt. So we were sort of at loggerheads, two strong women too. So.
And in your book, you mentioned that your mother tried to commit suicide, and you, as an 8-year-old child, saved her. You pulled her from the gas oven. What was that like?
She had gotten a deportation order. You know, she had all of our relatives had already been murdered, and my grandmother was taken the day before my 6th birthday and shot in front of a mass grave. Her brother and aunts and uncles and cousins had also been murdered already, and we had gotten a deportation order. I didn't know it at the time, and she had sent me off to an Aryan. My father was non-German, and a relative of his. She had sent me to this woman's house, a cousin, who was, I think, about 30 at the time or something, with my younger sister. in the hope that this woman Inge would look after us, or somebody was looking after my middle sister, and she was going to end her own life in order to save her children, because she thought if I arrived with my sister at Inge's doorstep, she couldn't very well refuse to take care of us. You know, my father would have, you know, never talked to her again, and I don't think that was something she would have liked. And my mother then decided to commit suicide, and something in her behavior and the fact that she had been crying all night before made me turn back, and I found her with her head in the gas oven, in our oven, and I pulled her out. And
before we wrap up this interview, I wanted to talk about the civil rights movement. Specifically in the chapter New Worlds, you say that this movement taught you nonviolence was a viable alternative to the hands of war. So what does that mean to you? Nonviolence is the only solution and answer to war. That we cannot continue on the road we are going. We are going backwards now with voter suppression and with, you know, the things that are being done. We see racism now, or to an extent that is unbearable. You know, our president is hated not for what he's doing, but because his skin is black. And you know, this is insane, total insanity, and we cannot allow this. We have to, you know, fight against that, and to fight against it, we have to do it non-violently, which we did during the civil rights movement. It has proven to be effective. India was, you know, forever under the control of the British. They won their freedom back. You know, they won their country back. They won their independence, and non-violently. You know, one man brought, you know, everybody along with him with this concept. It works. Thank you so much. You have offered such a unique perspective, as you said. It was a joy meeting you. Thank you so much.